the ancient war between the Greeks and the Atlanteans, and the Greek of VIMANAS, the spaceships of India. And now most of us know of these abydos hieroglyphs in the Seti temple in Egypt. One of the last pharaohs of Egypt, Nectanebo, gave an order for various temples to be brought down, but not this one, because he says this is the original temple of the landing of the extraterrestrials, gods, the overlords of Egypt. And we find that this hieroglyph has a tremendous amount of technology on it. It has helicopters, submarines, jet airplanes, tanks, and various things like that. And obviously, they resemble what we have today. This is not a coincidence. Now, the war between the Greeks and the Atlanteans, the Greek of VIMANAS, one of the areas of human existence and human achievement is ancient technology, which today has admittedly reached a fairly high level of development in our world. But what was the case in the past? What was going on in this industry in ancient times? The past and the beginning. Some argue that the evolution of technology is linear. In other words, it started from non-existence and is gradually developing until the modern era. And still others argue that thousands of years ago, technology had reached its zenith, then something shocking happened that caused a total catastrophe and a consequent new beginning in the field. As for the second point of view, there are indications that lead us to the conclusion that the Greeks probably possessed much of that advanced technology, if we also take into account our history, which goes back thousands of years, travel around the globe from the ancient years, the artistic and pompous buildings, etc. But let the data speak on their own so that everyone can draw their own conclusions. Item 1. Around 9,500 BC, according to scientists of oceanology, paleontology, geology, etc., the Greco-Atlantic War broke out. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. So according to Plato's writings, the Greco-Atlantic War broke out, which Plato in Plato's works Timaeus and Critic describes as fierce. The Greeks emerged victorious and Atlantis suddenly sunk. Researchers say that its sinking came from a powerful explosion, which, if we accept the view of high technology, probably came from advanced weapon systems. After that fierce war, everything went back to the Stone Age, and civilization was later reborn in its traditional cradle. Plato referred to the great legislator of Athens, Solon, who had visited Egypt, and the priests of Egypt there revealed their manuscripts to him, where information was recorded that certified the existence of the island of Atlantis and the advanced technology of the Greeks. Specifically, Plato mentions Kritia orally in the work of Timaeus. Quote, one of the priests said to Solon, "You Greeks are eternal children, there is no Greek old man." End quote. Now when Solon heard this, he asked, "How? What do you mean by that?" And the priest answered, "You are all new to the soul, because you have no old conception in it, which comes from an ancient tradition, nor any knowledge that has aged with time. And the reason is this: many and in various ways catastrophes to people have happened and will happen, the biggest ones due to fire and water, and the smaller ones because of myriad other causes. The achievements of your city were many and great," SS refers to the Athenians, "are written here, and we continue to admire them, but there is one who surpasses them all in greatness and virtue. Our records show that your city once intercepted a large force that had arrogantly attacked all of Europe and Asia, starting from the outside across the Atlantic Ocean. People could travel to the ocean at that time because right after its mouth, which I learn you call the Pillars of Hercules, that is Gibraltar, there was an island larger than Asia and Libya combined. Travelers of the time passed from this to the other islands, and from there to the whole opposite continent that surrounds this truly vast sea. I guess here he means North America, North and South America. All the places that are inside the mouth we were talking about look like a port with a narrow entrance, but the sea that exists outside the mouth, that is beyond Gibraltar, is the real sea, and the land that encloses it would be called continent, literally of the term. On this island, Atlantis, a great and wonderful power was created under royal rule that ruled over the whole island, as well as many other islands and part of the opposite continent. Again, we're talking about North and South America. In addition, on our side, it prevailed in Libya as far as Egypt and in Europe as far as Tyrrhenia. So this great force once gathered all its troops and tried with a single attack to enslave your city, the Athenians that is, and ours, and that is Egypt, and all those who are inside the columns, in other words, around the Mediterranean Sea. It was then, Solon, that the virtue and strength of your city was revealed to all mankind, because it stood first in the mind and technique of war. Leading the Greeks, and then forced to fight alone when the others abandoned her, she reached the ultimate danger, but eventually repulsed the invaders and triumphed. He did not let those who had never been enslaved know about slavery, and generously freed all the rest of us who lived through the pillars of Heraclion, that is, the Gibraltar area. Much later, however, terrible earthquakes and floods came, and in a day and a night of horror, all your warriors were lost on earth, and the island of Atlantis sank into the sea and perished. The ocean in those places became inaccessible and unexplorable by the very deep mud that Atlantis left behind as it sank. In summary, Plato speaks clearly of a fierce war between the Atlanteans and the Greeks, the end of which coincides with the end of Atlantis. Scientists Paul Wenzig and Pauline Zalinsky recently claimed to have located the island. They discovered the sunken ruins of an ancient city on the west coast of Cuba. In addition, a crystal pyramid was found in the Bahamas. The site includes several sphinxes and at least 4 giant pyramids, larger than Egypt's Cheops pyramid, which is considered the largest in the world, along with other structures. It is also noteworthy that the structures there are ancient symbols of pictograms, including the golden number phi of Pythagoras. Therefore, we are probably in front of a very advanced technology which the Greeks could only have since they finally sank the entire continent of Atlantis. Item 2, the Vimana, the so-called Vimana, which were flying machines. They could go up to the stars. One of the great Indian epics, the Ramayana, describes in detail the story of a journey to the moon through a Vimana. These were flying objects that the Indians saw in the sky. In Sanskrit, the Indians called us Savarzanas Javanas, which means the wisdom of the Greeks. Javan, even in Turkey, the Greeks are called Javan even today. Now, it should also be noted that in India, there are 2 very ancient Greek cities with a large area, Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, as well as that in the same area, an inscription in Greek has been discovered dating to 9000 BC, that's like 11,000 years ago, according to BBC data. Item 3, in the city of Nazca, Peru, also in other areas, ancient cosmodromes and bases have been discovered, which date back to before 3000 BC. Scholars claim that there was a spaceport in an area near Thessalonica, northern Greece, which however sank during the Greek-Atlantic War. It's well known that mainly Greece in ancient times consisted only of land, the famous Aida, and after its sinking, emerged with the numerous islands of the Aegean as well as we know them today. Item 4. The American professor Charles Hapgood undertakes to study ancient maps, including that of the Turkish Admiral Piri Reis. The Piri Reis map, as we know, shows Antarctica without ice. And of course, Antarctica wasn't discovered then, but it was on this map. The map shows Antarctica and some parts of America. The paradox, however, is that it not only depicts Antarctica, which predates the discovery of the continent in 1820, but also shows that Antarctica soil appears beneath the ice. The accuracy of this map requires knowledge of spherical trigonometry and knowledge of the method of azimuth projection of equal distances according to recent studies. There is therefore the scenario that there was such technology that it was possible to study the Earth globally from space, but also the map of Oronteus Phineas depicting the Earth round at the time when it was thought to be flat. Item 5. Based on research and archaeological findings, many scholars believe that the Greeks possessed this high technology, hence the transatlantic voyages and the majestic buildings, some of which definitely need high technological support. Therefore, there is a very high probability that the Greeks possessed high technology and transmitted it through their constructions and travels around the world. So we have listed here some facts that have come to light. All you have to do is keep your mind open and research as much as you can, drawing your own personal conclusions, because this is the only way to approach the truth. I've translated this for you from a Greek article, aorata geugonota, and meaning invisible events, on Diadrasika. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.